In this episode, we're going to add in a webhook to the end of our N8N automation so it can communicate back to our front-end application built in Replic. From there, we're going to also add in user login, and as always, we're going to run into hiccups along the way. Let's jump in, let's make some changes and have some fun. Hey everybody, welcome back to part 3. We're in the N8N workflow that we were using before. I added in these webhooks at the end of the send success nodes that we have here that were just text nodes, just kind of outputting the JSON result. And if we go back here and we go to our success webhooks, that's basically what I have here. Be sure to note the evaluation curly braces that we have on our web return webhooks, and make sure that this JSON is correct, because this can get real easy to get mixed up with about evaluating this JSON, JavaScript that's within this JSON block. So if we go back here, we also want to make sure that we're responding with JSON, and then we also want to make sure that our trigger webhook at the start is actually responding using a webhook node, because we are responding with a webhook at the very end. So with this, we can now wire this up to our application. Back on our Replic client, we're actually having a bit of an issue with having the N8N workflow come back with a result. So what we want to do is we want to talk to the agent about that. And if you ever have any questions, always ask the agent and go into plan mode to do that. And it'll give you a pretty good kind of like estimation of what it thinks something, how something can be solved, or what's wrong. So we're going to run the suggestions that it has here, which is a log, and it's going to add some different formats for the callback data and remove some old jobs from the view. But we're going to run this and see if that helps with getting the results back from Replit. And by Replit, I mean N8N. So Replit actually got a little bit confused about how this workflow was working, and it didn't wire this up correctly. It looked like it was pulling the response, so I had to correct it on that and told it, no, actually I'm sending back a webhook, from N8N, and it's like, oh, okay, let me change that for you. I'm like, thought you would have understood that to begin with, but hey, that's the woes of working with AI. Sometimes it just doesn't understand what you're doing and how you're doing it, so you just need to be a little bit more clear and work with it on that. I did that, but it's also, I'm looking at a notepad over here, it's also having a problem with not returning the right result. So it's missing something. I'll be back with you once I figure out exactly. Still working through the issue, but I wanted to show you guys that sometimes when you're working through issues like this, you're like, wait a minute, hey, the result should look like this, this JSON right here. Why are we not getting that back? And then giving that back to the AI in the agent prompt here. And then also you're getting the console output here, not that one, this right here. So, this is kind of hard to parse and kind of hard to see, but it's this kind of bigger output here. You want to actually put that into the agent and then work with it to say, hey, this is what I'm expecting. This is the output from the console log, what's going on, and then just going from there. I'll get back with you guys when I figure out what's going on. So it looks like the parser wasn't expecting that the response was coming back as an array, because that's what we're returning here. It's actually kind of funny to me too that we're returning an array. It should just be an object, I would think, but it appears to be an array. So maybe I can fix that up, but from the JSON that I'm putting together with the eval brackets around everything, it really doesn't seem right that I would be able to not send an array. So we are updating the logic here back in Replit, and let's see if that fixes our... We're getting the result back, but it's not being displayed correctly. We actually do have the URL, and we can see that in the console here, but it is, and I know this is tough to read, but it's in there. And I've put that into the agent. I've also described I don't like this UI where we have the video that we're captioning here. We hit the start captioning button, and then we have this jobs panel underneath the caption settings. I actually want everything underneath the start captioning button. So this is just, from using the tool, I'm like, I don't like that. I actually don't like this caption tab over here. So I'm probably going to get rid of that too. And just have everything under the start captioning button. But let's see if we can get this thing fixed up and get it actually displaying the correct result. Nice. So I guided the AI on how to build out the UI and where I wanted things. So I told it that I actually wanted the settings panel to come down more, and I wanted to move the captioned clips over here and below the start captioning, which is what we talked about previously about having completed jobs here. But it just kind of clarified things a little bit more. And you can tell the AI things like that, like, hey, follow these red arrows, and just kind of visually show it like what to do. and it'll actually figure it out. So I encourage you guys to do that. So we've got the results here after a captioned video, and it's, got really small captions here. So I'll do an example with some, actual better captions, because we just picked Arial, but I would use like the bold font, and, I don't have to do bold and try, a bigger size and all that. So I'll come back with that caption video, but I wanted to show you guys, like, you can adapt the UI and just tell the AI how you want it done and take screenshots and draw arrows, and it'll follow what you're trying to do. So that's all right. So I've got a better example here, and it's using that bold font, and it's looking great. I really like how it's looking, and that's what we're trying to build out. And this sample text is not good on top of this video. I want to actually use the font that it's using here, so I'm going to put that change in. But here, I adjusted some of the font settings here and the words per line. And I also wanted to show you guys quickly how I'm testing this. I didn't really go over that well. So I click on my source clip, it does show up here, and you hit start captioning, and you actually want to execute the workflow before you do any of that. So you want to execute workflow, click that, and then the workflow will wait for that kind of, webhook to come from your front end. So in our case, Replic. So you hit execute workflow, and then we go back to clip captioner, hit start captioning, and then Replic will then contact N8N based off of the URL that you give it. And in this case, we are using the test URL as it says right there. So that's the URL that we have right there. And you enter that into Replic like we did the last episode, and you hit start captioning. So when we do that, it's actually going to start the job, and it's going to send that off to N8N. And N8N is going to grind for about 25 seconds here or so, and then it's going to contact us back. So I had to guide Replic quite a bit on, hey, this is how the webhook is. N8N is actually going to contact us back. I wasn't clear enough about that, so you want to be clear with the AI about that. And there, it's back. Look at that. That's great. So here, it's just a 25-second video, so we can see the result here pretty quickly. And I just wanted to show you guys kind of that complete workflow of like how that works. And this is what you want to do when you're building out a SaaS application like this, is to have a very simple use case. So you don't want to have a super long video. This is just a 25-second video, and it comes back really quickly. So you can kind of just round trip and iterate. I'm putting in that change now to get that font to kind of extend better across the video and to match the font family. And I wanted to tell you guys something that I've been doing a lot lately, and that is using plan mode instead of just jumping right into build mode. The reason being is, one, plan mode's a lot quicker, and sometimes the AI, how it's going to approach something, isn't the way that I like how it's approaching a particular problem and so how to solve it. So I like to do plan mode first, make sure it's good, and then it comes up with a build plan as it's working on right now. And then I can go, yeah, that's good, or you can continue planning. So that's what's about to pop up here. If I didn't give it a question, that's probably too difficult. And it's working through it here, and then here's my plan. It's going to load in these fonts dynamically and make the text span the video width. So I can kind of look over its plan and go, yep, I like that. And it actually doesn't cost that much. That was 53 seconds. That's a little bit more. So 37 cents. Typically, it's a little bit cheaper than that. It's probably between like 5 and 20 cents usually, but unless it's a bigger question, I'm surprised it was this hard for it. But I can approve the plan now, go like, yep, that's what I like, start building, and then it'll execute on that plan. Just kind of want to tell you guys like what I'm thinking these days with it, and that using plan mode is a really good route to go before jumping right into build mode. So we got that change done with the captioning text to be able to change per the font that you're selecting. Problem is that this text does not at all represent what the text looks like when you actually export the video. So I'll have to probably work on that to just kind of shrink that down. We can work with the AI on that, some sort of calculation of some kind of show them this picture versus this picture. I don't want to work on that right now though. What I'd rather do is I'd rather work on the login system per user, since we're going to charge for this application. Luckily with Replic, you're able to do Replic login. Now, you want to use Replic login because it really just kind of makes it easy for you as you scale up your SaaS. You don't have to use something like Google credentials or signing up with all of that, or doing that with Supabase, which is pretty easy. They make it pretty straightforward, but just to make it even easier on ourselves, we're going to use Replic login, which has all the common login methods that you're used to. And then that just can kind of work out of the box. And then once the SaaS does get popular, if it gets popular for you, you can always switch over to using something like Supabase. But you would have to do a database migration. But if you're that far in and you're making money, you're going to want to deal with that problem anyways. So I put that into the prompt here. Let's use add in a Replit login rather, and this will require a database change per user and charging, since we're going to charge users for the application. But first we need a concept of users. I'm telling it. They're uploaded clips, jobs that have been completed, jobs that aired out. And we also want to be able to save the caption settings per user. Do you have to go that much into detail? Probably not, but I like to be as explicit as possible when I'm working with AI. Put in that request to the plan mode, and it came up with a really good plan. It's going to add in Replit auth, add a users table, users ID, to the clips table, move jobs to the database, user ID, and move presets, because we want to have presets for our caption settings, because of course you'd want to do that. You don't want to enter that in every time. Add user specific saved caption settings, right? Update all API routes and routes, and update the front end with add-in login, logout UI. So it's going to do quite a bit. This is probably going to take a little while, but it's going to be worth it. And it's really going to kind of set us up with the user accounts and then be able to charge people either monthly subscriptions or credits. I'm kind of leaning towards credits. I kind of like that idea, but let's see what we got here. So it's done with those database changes, and we now have a nice page that we are landing on. We can change this later. We want to, make it not look as AI-y as we have here, so we can mess with that later. Another episode, but we want to hit the login button, and it should take us to Replit login, and it does. It's the first time me testing it, guys. And we hit login. The caption would like to access your Replit account. So when a real user comes to this page, they would sign up with Replit and have like a Replit account, but it would have all the regular login methods that you would expect, and then they would be able to log into your app nice and easy. So for an initial SaaS, this is really nice. It really just kind of makes it easy. So before jumping in, like I said, with full on everything, test out your application, see what users think, and then you can always change it up later. So now we're back to the page that we're used to, and we can continue our flow. We lost our source clips though. It's probably because I made a new user. So I'll have to drop that in again, but I'll give it a test here and come back. We have our video here. We're going to upload it. It's going to go through that. I'm actually seeing here with the caption settings that it didn't add in the save feature. So we're going to want to do that too. So we're selecting our video. We're going to do highlight. We're going to do luckiest guy. That one's pretty cool. Crank up this font. I just know like around 80 is pretty nice. And we saw it even on our last kind of render that it was, not that big down here at the bottom. So we're going to give that a go, and we got max line of 3, and then we're going to start captioning that. Oh, I didn't turn on my N8. See there? Oh, yep. And then there we go. Oh, wait, what happened? Oh, why did that happen? It's because we didn't start our automation. And I also was messing around with the automation and thought of this before, and I thought I'd do it right mid-episode. Can you guys see what was wrong before with it? That's right. We actually really don't need all these nodes. We can actually just do it based off of this right here. So we made our automation even simpler. You know in engineering practices and with coding that if you're actually taking away code and making your, your functionality just as good, that's actually great. Still make it human readable in code. Obviously, this is visual, node-based kind of language, but we want to test this out and see if this works just with 3 nodes. So we got one webhook doing the request and then sending it back. So we're waiting there. Let's see if this works. I actually haven't even tested this yet. So, hey, you guys are testing along with me. It should be fun. But in all practicality, it should work, because whether this is a success or not, we can rename this webhook here. It should hit this and then, message back to our application. This was just a split to say, hey, was it successful? And then send a success or send an error. You're sending it regardless. So you don't actually need to have, a split there and checking for success. You're going to send it back regardless, right? So that's how we can make that simpler. And then there you go. So if it was an error, we still would have sent it back. So we can rename that node, and we can really simplify our N8N. And if you're looking at this going, wow, couldn't this be done in code and do it right within Replit? It absolutely could. And I know that because that's what I've done with Social Streamline, my main social media application. Everything is within code. I wanted to have this as a demonstration to show how simple things can be within N8N, but you could also do it within code, but it can be more maintainable in N8N because we can change our settings that much easier. This is a very simple example, but I still thought it would be a great way to really kind of show you guys how things can be modular within N8N and not have to manage things within code and kind of have that backend service instead of doing your own backend within Replit. Well, that went about as well as it usually does. We trudged through some errors, had some fun, and added a lot of great options to our application. In the next episode, we're going to smooth things out probably a little bit more on the user experience side and then add in Stripe payments. And from there, we can actually start sending it to real users and seeing what they think and if we need to add in more options. Or we can just launch it and slap a domain name on it and just see what people think. That's always fun to do too. If you want the code for this application, as always, join my free school community. It will always be free at codelesscollective.com. We'll see you in the next episode.